Well, good afternoon also from my side. My name is Isabell Tatsch. I'm working as literacy officer for the EU initiative klicksafe, respectively the German Safer Internet Awareness Center. I'm very glad to be here and to introduce to you the new module of harmful online behavior from our new handbook, klicksafe for Ethics, Navigating the Values of Digital Living, that we, klicksafe, have developed together with the Institute of Digital Ethics at the University of Stuttgart. So, first of all, I would like to give you a short introduction and overview of the whole handbook, its background, aims, and then a more detailed insight on the new chapter of harmful online behavior and the prevention program. Well, the handbook addresses 3 topics: privacy and big data, harmful online behavior, and the function of media in providing orientation and role models for young children and youngsters. The first modules are available in English and Polish as well. I think you already found them in your conference bags. Well, questions of media ethics affect us all today. How should we use modern media? How should we behave as producers or consumers of media communication content? And who is responsible for what, why, and to what extent? Well, for each, sorry. Well, and not what new arrangements do we need among internet users? And above all, what new agreements do we need for our children and youngsters as a guide? Our handbook addresses these topics. Well, the aims of the handbook are, well, on the one hand, to stimulate the process of considering moral judgments and actions, and also to promote development in values in young people, and also to support pupils to develop their own opinion, their own attitude. And therefore, the aim of the module is also to show ways that lead a successful life in a digital society. Well, but how can we develop an own opinion, an own attitude? How can we encourage the development of values? To develop an own attitude is a social learning process. It's not only about theoretical knowledge or just information. It's about raising awareness, and it's about addressing pupils on different levels, above all on emotional level. Behind this idea stands the so-called Media Ethics Roadmap. Maybe you already heard about it this morning because Oliver Zöllner from the Institute of Ethics in the University of Stuttgart also talked about it in his presentation this morning. Well, as you can see, for each module, the roadmap is structured in the same way. The roadmap is divided into 7 different steps. Well, and you're all teachers, I assume the first 4 steps are well known from your own pedagogical work. First, you raise awareness of the topic and analyze the situation by identifying the participants and the scientific insights we have on the topic, and then we analyze and reflect on the possible effects of the action. The particular of the roadmap begins with step 5, to discuss conflicts of values. In this context, it's about reaching pupils in an emotional way, because in that way we can stimulate thought processes with the aim to come to an own attitude that also has an effect on the behavior. There are different methods how to reach this. So role plays, case studies, every method that has a holistic approach and works with the change of perspective or that fosters emotional and social competences. In the handbook, we are working with such called conflicts of values, so dilemmas. So moral dilemma is a slapstick. It's a situation or a conflict that forces someone to decide between 2 equally important values. that you would normally not wish to break. In those situations, we have to ask which values should apply, which values are in conflict, and which values should take priority and why. The idea behind this is to confront pupils with those difficult situations where they have to weigh the pros and cons, where they have to discuss the consequences of their behavior, and finally they have to come to an own decision. And in that way, they can form an own attitude or, well, for what behavior, for what action they would like to stand for. In confronting with such conflicts, own values should be recognized and an own attitude should be developed. Well, friendship, for example, is an extremely important value in younger years, where belonging to a group plays a very important role. And but conflicts, of course, can occur between friendship and one's own sense of responsibility and respect to other people. So in this context, it could be the fear of losing a friend that leads a person to ignore, tolerate, or even to support harmful online behavior. So values such as friendship can come into conflict with values as fairness, justice, responsibility, or respect. I will come back to this aspect later on, and I will show you examples and exercises how you can implement those conflicts in your work with young children. Well, back to the roadmap. Finally, the roadmap is also about finding possible ways how to take action as an individual, but also as a group, for example, as a class. Well, those were the basic information in the background about the handbook and the roadmap itself, and now I would like to continue with the chapter on harmful online behavior. In order to empower young people to form moral judgments and to act appropriate relating to online conflicts, thought processes about moral judgments and actions should be initiated. The aim here is to acquire digital competencies in relating to online conflicts. Well, when we now have a look at a roadmap, the starting point is at raising awareness of vulnerability. Human beings are vulnerable, not only physically, but also emotionally. And at this point, one should make clear, online violence is real violence. And what all forms of online violence have in common is that they damage the integrity of a person and his standing in the real world. And this, of course, stands in contradiction to the principle of dignity in our society. And at the same time, such violent acts restrict those affected from living their life successfully. So, thus, from an ethical point of view, the perspective of the victim ought to be touchstone here, and not the perspective of the bully, who may anyway think it's all just fun and not that bad. Well, there are always different roles and motives that figure in a conflict. And one important point is here that ethical reflection and motivation should focus mainly on those who are witness to hurtful behavior, because the perpetrators themselves can probably only rarely be moved to improve their moral standards. Instead, the aim is to weaken the influences of those perpetrators within a community and to motivate the others to stand up and intervene against hurtful online behavior. Well, bystanders are key players in a conflict, and though they are an important starting point when it comes to pedagogical work, because they are the persons who have the power to intervene and to take a stand against the unfair behavior. Well, anyone who speaks out against online abuse, hurtful online behavior is in need of support. The supporters can be friends of the person, teachers, or hosts in a chat. But aside from these external supporters, the active person needs an intrinsic assistant that enables him to stand up and to intervene. And these are the abilities to change perspective and the capacity for empathy. Well, but how can we encourage the capacity for empathy? How can we give impulses for respect and mindfulness on the internet? Well, at this point, I would like to switch to a more practical, aspects, and would like to show you some examples and exercises we have developed for the handbook. So first, I would like to show you 2 exercises from the project that is called Respect and Mindfulness on the Net. And this exercise is a roundabout of various stations and assignments for students about 14 years or older. And here the students are given impulses for mutual respect and mindfulness on the internet, and also to think about hate on the internet. For example, one station is called No Chance for Haters, Trolls and Shitstorms. And as you can see in this task, it's about what we can do about hateful comments on the internet. Within this task, the pupils should create a mind map and think about what they can do as individual users or as a service provider. So this is one station within this project. Another one is called Keep Your Grip on Your Emotion. And as you can see, this exercise is about how to criticize a text, a posting or video on the internet, and what you should keep in mind when doing so. This station is all about, of course, think before you post. And as you can all see, questions here are, well, are you just in a bad mood or bored? Are there some other reasons for your post? Maybe you're just mad at your girlfriend or your mom, or you just maybe misunderstood the post. Well, the exercise is meant to raise awareness on possible insulting posts that are maybe done out of other reasons, and to think about your criticism and to keep it impersonal. The pupils here should reflect on their feelings that motivates them to criticize a video or a post, and sometimes it's maybe it's better, and I think we all know this, to sleep over it and to post another day, to write an email another day without those anger feelings inside. Well, as announced at the beginning of the presentation, I will now come back to the very important aspect, the so-called conflicts of values, moral dilemmas. In the module, examples of such dilemmas can be found, and this exercise is called conflicts of values, how should I decide? And well, here you can see one example for such a conflict regarding cyberbullying. Well, it's about, you can read it, it's about a new pupil in class, Alexander from the Ukraine. He's shy and he only speaks broken German. And the situation is that one classmate, Tom, sees that another boy, Ole, has linked Alexander on Facebook to a photo showing a heap of excrement, and under the photo it says, well, Alexander stinks. But Tom himself has previously been mobbed, insulted, and threatened by Ole as well. And the question here is, well, what should Tom do? And this could be an exercise you can discuss with young people in your class. And well, of course, these are just examples, but I think it's clear that on the one hand, we have Tom, who of course is afraid of becoming the victim of Ole as well. He wants to protect himself. And on the other hand, we have those values such as friendship, mindfulness, and one's own sense of responsibility and fairness. So, well, as I said before, those are just inspirations for you, for your own stories. I think one important point is here that the story is really good and has a really good connection to the everyday lives of teenagers. Of course, the best would be if the teenagers bring their stories themselves to get them emotionally involved, their own problems, their own questions, their own conflicts. Because I think this is a very important point to get them emotionally involved so that they feel, for example, with the victim and, well, have a, have the feeling of the victim. So, well, those were examples from our new handbook, examples how to give impulses for mutual respect, mindfulness on the internet, and also to discuss difficult situation, conflicts of values with young people. You will find those exercises and even more of those in the module you already have. And I hope I could give you an insight of the handbook, Click for Ethics, and the module of harmful online behavior, well, and the idea how to work with your young people in your class. Thank you for your attention.